Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 156, 4th Gacha. General POV. Afterlife. A place where souls converge after the physical body experiences death. So what does it mean when an agent enters the afterlife realm? What would happen to the agent's body when they conducted their gacha session? The answer is: their body will enter a suspended animation state, until the time when the session is over, and their soul returns to their physical body. Edward POV. Hi? I walked warily towards the shaman-like existence in the middle of the grassy field. The shaman was wearing a cloak made of straws, and her face was hidden by a Viking-style helmet with giant horns. However, the smell of grass and the gentle crashing of the waves soon made me relax a little. This place reminds me of the MCU's place where Odin passed away besides Loki and Thor. Is this Valhalla? I asked her jokingly. She grunted and didn't answer my question while giving me a blank sheet of paper. Your karmic point. Beware. She muttered. Edward Newgate. Affiliation, official member of the Afterlife Corps. Current status, singer/gamemaker/inventor/apps developer/chef. Positive karma, 142,000,022, 5 million in storage. Negative karma, minus 11,111.05. Holy shit, that's a lot of bad karma. What the hell did I do? I scowled as I read my datasheet. Also, why am I being summoned here today? What special day is this? The shaman, whom I could only see her mouth, scowled at the question. You talk too much. She bonked my head with her wooden staff, causing me to whimper in pain. Ah! I groaned as I rubbed my sore temple. All right. I won't ask. It's not like there's any rule that needs to be followed for me to come here, right? I muttered sarcastically. She was silent for a while, and then she said, Today, your summon still follows the rule of life and death day. However, I don't think that there is a person alive on your earth that knows the significance of today. Huh? I looked at the mournful shaman as she reminisced about something. I was confused, so I asked politely, What day's significance is today, if I may know, ma'am? Do you want to test your luck, or do you want to know a boring story? She asked with slight dissatisfaction. I was upset, so I confronted her. Why are you so angry? You're the one who brought me here. No. I wasn't the one who brought you. And I already told the people at Afterlife Corps to stop sending people to my session. She growled in dissatisfaction before she took out multiple small bone pieces and a worn-out mat. Is this bone divination? Isn't this an ancient Chinese tradition? What does it have to do with Nordic religion? I asked curiously. The shaman scowled and said, You really talk too much. Well, I will shut up when you tell me about the boring story, I asked with a teasing smirk. She was stunned for a while before she asked in disbelief, You don't want to get your power-ups? I can only do one thing. If you want to hear my story, then you'll have to give up the Karmic Gacha for today. So which one will you choose? Well, I choose the story. I interrupted her, and she was stunned by my reply. She paused for a while. What? She exclaimed in disbelief. Yeah. I think your story will be more interesting than the gacha. I muttered in a sincere tone. To be honest with you, I'm not looking forward to the gacha right now. My life is quite perfect at this moment. I smiled as I laid down sideways on the grassy land, propping my head up with my hand as I leisurely looked in her direction. So, tell me, what day is it today? I asked her again. She was silent for a while, before she bonked my head angrily again and said, sit upright if you want to listen to it. Don't be disrespectful. Ouch! I exclaimed with a smile as I noticed that she had put down her guard. I'm sorry. Please. Enlighten me. I asked in a mischievous demeanor, which made her frown again. General POV. The door to the hospital emergency ward was pushed open. The EMT medical officer was sitting on top of Edward's body, pushing his chest to make sure that his heart would keep beating using CPR. Ted, Camila and Haley followed the gurney from behind, but was stopped by the medical officer as they wanted to follow Edward to the ICU. Haley and Camila broke down crying. Ted gritted his teeth and blood was dripping from his clenched fist. Ed! Don't die! Haley wailed as she could see the doctor trying hard to resuscitate Edward from behind the glass wall. Clear! The doctor pressed the defibrillator on Edward's bare chest before giving him an electric shock to revive his heart function. It's not working, the intern doctor said. Increase the voltage and try again. The resident doctor yelled. Edward's POV. Ow. Why does my chest suddenly hurts? I muttered as I rubbed my sore chest while listening to the shaman story. So Sage. All of the people who know about the old gods have disappeared from my world? I asked her, ignoring the pain. I found out that her name was Sage after insistent badgering, and 2 times getting bonked in the head. However, it was hard for me to have a bad feeling for the woman. She had basically been alone here for hundreds of years. She's an old grandmother. I have a soft spot for this kind of lonely person. Yes. I am now puzzled as to why you're here. No one is supposed to be here anymore. Sage muttered with a concerned voice. I wonder if this has something to do with Gongshin. That old guy loves to interfere after all. Sage mumbled. What was that? I asked her. Nothing. Now that you've listened to my story, you only have time for only one gacha roll. Oh. The strength of my soul, right? I guessed. Sage nodded and said, your soul is still too weak. You can only support being here for 45 minutes to an hour. It's okay. Then, roll it for me. Ah, what about the Grim Reaper dude dash? Stop talking and ruining my concentration. Sage growled before she shook the bone pieces in her hand. The sky suddenly turned cloudy, thunder and lightning appeared on the sky. I stood up quickly. What's happening? My mind was racing and my breathing became rapid. That's the background effect. Sage said casually. I almost fell down after hearing it, that's it? I really thought that something would descend from the sky. Sage snickered, as if something will descend from the sky because of you. I was shocked, so, things can fall out of the sky? Sage was silent, and then she threw the bone pieces on top of the worn-out mat with a circle akin to a compass on it. Suddenly, an illusionary scroll popped out from the mat, almost making me fall on my ass from the shock. The guy who designed the background effect is really sinister. I grumbled as I sat down cross-legged in front of Sage. She opened the scroll and then sighed, I don't expect this to come out. Seriously, why don't you try to scheme better? Doing this kind of thing will only expose you more easily. Hoo. I urged her for an answer, but she just threw the scroll at me. I read it and widened my eyes from the shock. Black Gold Quality Enhancement Soul Upgrade, one-time use. What the dash? Before I could react, a golden glow appeared on my body, and the suction force that I had been feeling to get me back to my world disappeared. Congratulations! Your soul strength has been tripled. You can stay here for 2 more hours. Sage said in a tired manner. I laughed as I realized that someone was pitting against Sage in this session, and she lost, badly too. Sage thought for a while before she said, well. There is another way for me to chase you quickly, for you to end the session. That is, for you to empty out all of your karmic points. I rubbed the back of my head and said, that's true. But it's impossible for me to roll all of my 130 million points, even if I applied the high-quality roll every time. Edward, don't you feel it? Sage suddenly becomes mysterious. What? I asked, intrigued. When did a gacha roll with a session master become an ordinary one? Sage said with a smirk. I was surprised and said, wait, you have a special characteristic? Like the casino? Yes. I am the sage after all. You can make me an offer. And if I accept it, then I will conduct a divination roll for you. What's that? Unlike the randomness of the gacha, my divination roll will give you something beneficial that you will definitely need in the future. However, once you object to my divination, or you try to question me about the future, the session will be over, and I could not use a divination roll for you again no matter how hard you beg of me. It's fine. I trust you, Sage. I mumbled. So how much I need to offer? Sage was silent for a while. I cannot interfere, but let's just say that you cannot afford my service for less than 50 million karmic points. The subsequent gacha roll will cost you 10 million points each, and this is not negotiable. Oh yeah? Lucky for you, I'm a rich man. I laughed before I shrugged and said, I leave my fate to you, Sage. Help me. She snorted and said, that's natural. She took a deep breath before shaking the bone pieces in her hand again while muttering some ancient mantra. The background effect appeared again, which made me mutter, the dedication of these people. Sage then dropped the bone pieces on the mat, and another scroll popped out. She reached towards the scroll and read it, purple quality consumable, fire immunity, Natsu Dragnel. One-time use. Wait. Fire? I furrowed my eyebrows as Sage threw the scroll to me. I placed it on the floor as I thought about the implication. The prize is something that was predicted by Sage, and I was sure to need it in the future, so I suffer from a fiery incident? If so, will I be the only one there? Sage. Remember the rules, Edward Newgate. Sage said quickly. I shut my mouth quickly and nodded, I'm sorry. Continue. Sage paused for a while and said, all right. I'll let you off with a warning. She then shook the bone pieces again, and the gacha session continued. General POV. We have to put him on life support. I'm afraid that he won't have much longer. The doctor shook his head in sympathy as he broke the news to Ted and Camila. Ted staggered and fell down on the chair while Camila broke down in tears. How long does he have? Ted asked lifelessly. Less than a day. The doctor replied. If his condition didn't improve, then the best choice was for us to let him go. Haley was comforted by Claire and Phil, who came to the hospital as soon as their daughter called them. Outside of the hospital, the paparazzi was held back by the security before they could break into the ICU ward. Pepper wiped his tears as he entered the hospital, trying to keep himself steady to support Ted and Camila at the critical moment. Harvey asked the doctor, do you know what happened to him? The doctor shook his head and said, we don't know. The toxicology report came back clean. He is not on any substance, nor was he poisoned. His body just stopped. I am not clear on how to explain it. I have called a few specialists, and they are rushing over right now to take a look. Harvey was confused by the treatment, so she gave the scruffy-looking doctor a weird look. The doctor understood her apprehension and said, well, the director's daughter is the fan club president for the boy. Lily? Harvey was shocked when she heard it. After talking to the doctor, Harvey quickly went to do some damage control to protect Edward's reputation, as some party had leaked his condition to the press. Assholes. All of them. Harvey gritted her teeth, and her eyes turned red. She read the accusations that Edward was overdosed on drugs, and was already dead on the article's claims, and vowed to destroy each and every single one of the bastards that profits from others' misery. In Cuba, Miranda, the woman in a floral dress and large white hat, received a call from her sister from America. Her eyes turned red and she walked towards the bloodied man tied up to the chair before holding a gun right in front of his face. In Spanish, where's the weapon shipment going to be? The man replied, in Spanish, fuck you, traitor. The Castro dash. Miranda suddenly took out 5 bullets from the revolver, leaving only 1 bullet inside the gun chamber. She then pulled the trigger, shocking the man in front of her. "You have 4 more chances, sort of. Unless you speak the information, I won't stop. I won't tell you." Miranda pulled the trigger again. "You won't," the man shouted, visibly shaken. Miranda pulled the trigger again. "Wait. Stop dash." Miranda pulled the trigger again coldly. The man was nervous. "Do you know who I am?" Miranda was still silent and she pulled the trigger once more. Then, she pressed the muzzle of the gun right on top of the man's forehead. "Goodbye," she muttered. "The shipment is at 20 p.m. 10 o'clock tomorrow." The man shouted quickly. Miranda lowered the gun slowly. The man smiled as he thought that he was safe. But then, another woman in a floral dress put her gun behind his back and blew up his head. "Mercy is not for these vermin, Miranda," the woman said. "I'm going to America," Miranda suddenly said. The woman was shocked. "Did you forget your deal?" "I didn't. But, my son is on the deathbed right now. And if you try to stop me again," Miranda slowly aimed her gun at the woman's head. "Then you will die." Edward POV. Purple Quality Gacha, Charisma of Wicked Wisdom, Talent A. James Moriarty. Purple Quality Gacha, Detective Skill, Shinichi Kudo, Detective Conan. Black Gold Quality Gacha, Koto Amatsukami, Distinguishing Heavenly God Illusion, Uchiha Shursui, One-Time Use. "Call me Edward Uchiha from now on," I said in an arrogant demeanor. Then, Sage bonked my head with her staff again. "Sit down. I need you to focus. There is something that you desperately need. And the rareness of the prize is incomparable to everything that you'd gotten before." Sage muttered. "Wait. Really? What is it?" I asked her. "Also, will my eye change into a Manjikyu Sharingan? Alright, I'll focus." I shut up quickly as she picked up her staff again. Currently, I have spent over 80 karmic points in this gacha session, making it the most expensive session yet. And the prizes that I'd gotten were extremely precious. I can only store some luck before I vie for that item. She muttered incomprehensibly before she looked me straight in the eye. "I can guarantee that I can get out that item if I roll 3 random gacha for you. Of course, the price won't change. This item, wait. No question, right? I don't feel that you're trying to trick me, Sage. So I believe in you. You can do whatever you want, but just leave enough points for me to cut off my negative karma, yeah?" Sage flashed a tiny smile and said, "Okay. I won't disappoint you." Green Quality Gacha Piloting Skill, Maverick. Purple Quality Gacha Dance Skill, Robert Alexander III/Moose, Step Up Movie. White Quality Gacha, AI Creation Memory, Tony Stark. "Oh, I got Jarvis, or maybe Friday, but it's a white quality one so the memory will be short," I mumbled to myself. Sage then took a deep breath and then she muttered, "Well, I need another random one." From expecting, to suddenly feeling that she wasn't reliable, I narrowed my eyes at her before I sighed and said, "Sure." She nodded and continued, "Last one. I promise." White Quality Gacha Hairspray Hand, Aizen Sasuke. I laughed out loud when I read the prize, and while I was tearing up, Sage was shaking her bone pieces in a solemn manner while mumbling the ancient mantra. Lightning and thunder danced together in the sky, before a lightning bolt suddenly struck at the center of the mat as Sage threw her bone pieces. "Oh damn! What is it?" I calmed myself down after getting shocked, and waited for Sage to finish reading. She smiled as she threw the scroll at me. "You got it. The rare item. Black Gold Quality Gacha, Talent Shredder, Afterlife Corp." "Wait. This is a corporation item." I muttered in confusion. "Why do I need this? Oh. This must be it." I snapped my finger as I thought about the danger of having that skill with me. Sage paused for a while before she said, "Before you continue joking, I'll remind you that special ability, God Usopp, Light of Truth, is only a white quality gacha prize. It only works on dumbass, and won't actually influence the fabric of reality like you're thinking of, dumbass. I was stunned for a while before I laughed to cover up my embarrassment. So, what do you want me to use this on? Use it on your prodigy's fate, Kusai Arima, talent that you got during your first birthday. Sage muttered. Huh? I rolled the gacha on my first birthday? I asked her in shock. She stared at me for a while before she was astonished. You didn't know? How could you not know? This is not in line with the rules. Sage was restless for a while before she asked, so you don't know about your elderly lady killer talent too? I have a talent like that? I shrieked. I'll tell the guys back at the HQ about this so that they will rectify the situation. Sage muttered after thinking for a while. I nodded at her remark before using the consumable talent that she mentioned. Good. Last time, your guardian intervened so that the talent activation would fail. Now, you can have a normal relationship with the people around you and it won't turn into a creative tragedy. Huh? Guardian? Wait did the accident involving Desiree? I widened my eyes in realization. Sage nodded, but she didn't explain as it wasn't part of her responsibility. It was enough that she helped me understand what had happened, and I was thankful for that. Okay. Let's continue. I muttered. Sage looked at me weirdly and said, That's it, your point is finished. Ah, ha ha ha. I laughed to cover up my embarrassment again before I felt a suction force pulling me away to my real world. Thank you, Sage. Even if my world has forgotten about you, I will never forget you. I'll do a Wikipedia entry about the old god's existence as tribute when I get back. I smiled as I waved at her. Hey Edward. Sage suddenly shouted. What is it? Make a last roll. A normal one this time. She suggested while handing over the bone pieces in my hand. Really? My eyes lit up before I threw it happily. Alright, one high quality dash. Do a normal quality. She quickly said. Alright. One normal quality, 66 karmic point gacha roll. I announced. A white quality gacha scroll popped out, and Sage quickly handed it over to me. I opened the gacha quickly as my soul was dissipating, and widened my eyes when I saw it. I hugged Sage without warning, making her freeze in place. Oh my god. You're the best session master ever. Thank you, Sage. I almost kissed her cheek, but my soul dissipated before I could do that. I got a nice treasure at my last gacha roll. White quality gacha, One Piece anime, until ending of Wano arc, memory, Inaki Gadoi. General POV. Haley couldn't accept reality. Why? Why is this all happening? He was fine just a few hours ago. She cried at the edge of Edward's bed after the doctor let the people come and visit him to say their final words before the doctor pulled over the life support equipment. Sure. Suddenly, all of the depressed and crying people in the room heard a strange laugh coming from the bed. Ted, Camila, Claire, Phil, Harvey, Pepper and Haley looked at Edward's face, only to realize that the man was laughing. Edward suddenly laughed out loud, and the EKG machine's reading suddenly spiked. Edward? Haley muttered in confusion, and all of them took a step back in surprise as Edward suddenly sat up and laughed while saying, "Grrrr fifth. Wait. Where the hell am I?" Edward was shocked when he saw the white surroundings and the people around him. Only then did he realize that he was wearing the oxygen mask and was wearing a patient's gown. How long was I asleep?" Edward asked amidst the people's shock. The doctors were shocked. The nurses were shocked. His family and friends were shocked. The squirrel who's stalking him was shocked. And even his fans were shocked. Ed. Haley rushed to hug Edward after he woke up from his sleep. Edward was looking at his dad with an expression asking, "What's going on?" This is not possible." I was sure, the doctor shivered as he checked Edward's pupil dilation. "It's a miracle!" he shouted. Chapter 157, Mommy Attack? Edward POV. What's wrong? What happened? Why am I here? I got so many questions after I woke up from my sleep. It took a while for my family to calm down after the miracle happened. I was surprised when they said that my heart stopped, but I wasn't alarmed as I could guess it was a part of the gacha experience. I really need to know the schedule of these things. I scolded inside my heart. While I was thinking, I found myself in the center of a group hug without my consent. Haley, Claire, Phil, and my aunt suddenly hugged me, while Pepper and my dad waited for their turn after the first group finished. I was only asleep. I mumbled, but no one would believe me. They didn't let me get discharged from the hospital, therefore I was stuck there until the doctor could come out with a reasonable explanation of what just happened. I rolled my eyes and continued sleeping after I was moved out of the ICU ward. The Dunphys left to get some rest, leaving only my dad and my aunt inside the ward. It's not that they didn't want to stay, but the doctor didn't want the ward to become crowded. Edward, did you eat something strange? The doctor asked the next morning. No, I replied honestly. Should I just Koto Amatsukami my way out of this? I think that will be too wasteful, right? I thought secretly while narrowing my eyes at the doctor. The blonde resident doctor who was checking up on me had no idea that she was in a pernicious position, and continued to question me about my habit and diet, trying to find a clue that could help her in the diagnosis. She looked at my dad and aunt before asking hesitatingly, did you had any sexual intercourse in the last 24 hours? I snorted, I wish. But no. She nodded before scratching her head in confusion, I still can't figure out what had happened to you. So, I'm asking for your consent to share your details with a good friend of mine. My dad frowned but I was intrigued, oh. Who's he, Dr. Isabel? He's a board-certified diagnostician with a double specialty in infectious disease and nephrology. His name is Dr. Gregory House, and he's in town for a seminar. My dad opened his mouth to reject it, but I interrupted him quickly. By any chance, is he from Princeton Plainsboro Teaching Hospital in New Jersey? I asked the doctor. She was surprised and asked, you know him? Even my dad was surprised and looked at me with awe. Well, he's one of my favorites. I replied with a smile. I turned to my dad and convinced, let him come. Only then you'll believe that I was only sleeping. Then, we can go aboard the ship and see the fireworks from the coast. I didn't try to urge my dad to take me out of the hospital quickly after I learned what happened when I was asleep. It didn't take too much thinking to know how worried that they must have been when I was frolicking with Sage in the gacha realm. I already miss that girl. Also, I really need to stay in the hospital because 2 of my ribs were cracked. Shocking, right? It happened during CPR, and it was a common thing in the procedure. And the culprit for this issue? My CPR certified dad, so I really couldn't blame him. Are you sure? Pepper is already suing the hospital after they leaked your condition last night. My aunt said while giving a suspicious look at the doctor. Dr. Isabel scratched her cheek in a guilty manner. Even though it wasn't her fault, she was still implicated as the person responsible was part of the hospital management, and now the entire group of doctors on the floor was implicated. The hospital's reputation flunked, and Pepper wanted to transfer me away to another private hospital, but I stopped him as I didn't want the hassle. It's fine. I trust Dr. House. I looked at my dad, and he sighed soon after. All right. Half an hour later, a limping, scruffy-looking man walked into the ward using a cane. He was wearing a simple suit, and went directly to snatch the lab reports from Isabel's hand as he entered. This report is wrong. His heart didn't stop entirely. Dr. House caught the irregularity in the diagnosis. But it was lowered to almost 3 beats per minute. So it's like he's dead, but not really. Whoa! I exclaimed subconsciously as I saw his intense style, causing the doctor to turn and look in my direction. Hi. Dr. Gregory House. I like your rock song. He offered me his hand, and I shook it. Edward Newgate. Ask anything you want if that means I can finally go home. Dr. House smiled at me, but I knew that he had an intense distrust in other people. Okay, I'll take the challenge. I want to see how long you can stay honest and keep your reputation intact. He muttered. Try me. I replied with a grin. Have you tried any new, trendy, or under-the-counter recreational drugs in the last few days? He asked. I had an aspirin 2 days ago. That's it. I replied. Really? A famous, newly rich young boy didn't live his life indulging in vices? He snarked sarcastically. Well, I'm still too busy for that. Maybe in the future. I replied. My aunt scolded quickly with a gasp, Edward. That's strange. If your heart didn't slow down to a phase akin to a suspended animation, I would just say that you're only asleep. Dr. House said after a thorough questioning. He asked about the material of the clothes I was wearing, whether or not I was bitten by a pet or any insectoids, how many sexual partners I had, which I whispered to him in reply because my dad was still around. I was asleep. I shouted in my mind. You're a good kid, surprisingly. Dr. House muttered with a trace of worry. You said you just moved back into your house? Mind if I look around? That's impossible. My dad wanted to stop the madness, but I interrupted, sure. You can go there with my aunt. Ed. This is highly inappropriate. My aunt protested. Her reaction was normal for Dr. House, but my attitude towards him was greatly surprising for him. It's fine. He's not trying to hurt me. He's just trying to find the answer. So let's cooperate. I muttered. So that I can go home soon. If you want to go home, you can go home. Dr. House suddenly said, surprising all three of us. Your body is quite healthy, and there's actually no reason for these guys to keep you here. All the examinations are done, so yeah. You can go. Really? My eyes lit up as he said that. Dr. House added, but you need to wear a heart monitor for at least 3 days, even when you're at home, so that we can get a clue of what's happening inside your body. All right. I agreed with the requirement instantly. As he helped me wear the mobile heart monitor, he explained, this thing will beep if your heart slows down again, or if you have an intense heart rate. So don't exercise for a few days, and keep yourself calm. Wait. I'm not going to be here in 3 days. I muttered as I looked in my dad's direction. Dr. House nodded in understanding and said, it's fine. You only need to send the result to the hospital afterward. It doesn't matter where you'll be. I can refer you to the nearest hospital if it's really necessary. All right then. Thanks a lot, doctor. I said with a smile. Dr. House smirked and left, leaving his contact number behind. After changing my clothes, I was escorted out of the hospital under the guard of 6 bodyguards. Although, we went to the parking lot first as I boarded the SUV there, so the strict guarding was a little bit much. I suddenly turned my head as I could feel a gaze coming from afar. However, I couldn't find the culprit for it. What's wrong? The bodyguard asked me. I don't know. I just felt something nostalgic. I muttered as I gazed toward a huge cement pillar. I didn't investigate as I thought it was a stray paparazzi that managed to break through the net, so I just left the hospital quickly. My aunt told me afterward that Dr. House had examined the entire house for toxicity and other harmful substances when I was finally discharged. I wanted to watch the scene, therefore I checked the hidden CCTV I had installed, while eating ice cream straight out of the tub. Come over. No. Haley replied decisively after I video called her using the laptop, however, she was smirking afterward, signifying she was joking. She was on her bed, with a face filled with fatigue and sunken cheek. Her eyes were a bit puffy, which made me feel a bit guilty from how much she had cried last night. The reason I was speaking to her like this was because I was grounded by my guardians until the doctor could come out with an explanation. For now, they were calling my condition the Sleeping Beauty Syndrome, and it wasn't decided yet whether the condition was harmful or negligible for my body. Come on. It's the 4th of July and I cannot even go to the parade, I said pitifully, trying to earn her sympathy. She then shook her head and said jokingly, no. I don't think I will come over for the rest of my life. I flashed my puppy dog eyes, pretty please? Damn it, why are you so cute? Alright dash while Haley was pretending, suddenly her laptop was snatched and the screen was replaced by Claire's image. Edward. What are you doing? I want to go to the parade, but I'm on house arrest. So I want to invite Haley here, I said casually to Claire without flinching. She was taken aback before saying, alright. I'll come over dash. No need. Haley is fine. I interrupted her. She's my sleeping pill after all. It's just patient care, Claire, you don't have to worry. I would worry. Especially since I'm going to leave my teenage daughter with a hot guy. Claire blurted out. Mom. You. I could hear Haley's voice coming from afar. Claire turned sideways and said, you know what I meant. But he's broken. Haley retorted. He needs my help. And I don't want to go to the parade without him. Yes, Claire, I'm broken. Wait, I got another call. Text me if you're coming, Haley. I'm not decent. I muttered as I was only wearing a robe at the moment. Not decent? Are you nude? The excited Haley snatched back the laptop from her mom, and before she could peek at the screen, I cut the call. General POV. So no one wants to go to the parade? Claire asked in a helpless manner. Luke, you too? Luke shrugged and said, it's not fun to go there without Edward. We promised to play with the fireworks together. Claire smiled helplessly as she rubbed Luke's head, feeling that her son was pretty cute. Luke's commentary. Of course we didn't make any promises. Edward told me that he has installed the new PlayStation at his house and bought a zombie game that we can play together. I was looking forward to it all week. So I was planning to go there today, but he got into the hospital last night. But he still let me play by myself. Commentary ends. Phil was a bit sad, but then he had a great idea. While Alex is going to the parade with Phineas, Haley, and Luke want to go to Ed's. So why don't we bring our barbecue ingredients and fireworks, and we all go there this evening? Claire shook her head. We don't know what's wrong with Ed first. I don't want him to get fatigued and pass out again. Haley told me he has been working continuously before it happened, so I want him to get some rest. Yeah, but think about how sad he is. He was looking forward to this day, to see the firework, the parade, but now, he's being grounded and treated like a weak man. I know Ed, and I know how much he hates being looked at as a burden. Haley interjected quickly. Wait. Really? Phil asked in realization. Haley nodded and said, didn't you notice? Anyway, he's not going to rest even if we told him to. So let's just go there, and we can keep an eye on him. But his dad is there. Even his aunt is there. Claire tried to reason. Yeah. But can they honestly stay with Ed all day in his room to keep an eye on him? Haley said, trying to arouse Claire's thinking. Claire widened her eyes in realization before saying, she's right. It's settled. Let's have the 4th of July celebration at Ed's place. Phil announced in excitement. At a cafe in a town nearby, Camila was sipping a cup of tea while sitting facing a woman in a floral dress. You're not going to meet him? Camila asked. Miranda shook her head, no. I don't have the strength to do it. Camila squinted her eyes, so you're going to keep stalking him from far? Maybe. Miranda sipped her tea and answered non-committedly. You should go back now. Don't take him out of your sight. Camila nodded. By the way, did you bring what the doctor wants? Miranda took out an envelope and slid it over to Camila, the family's history of disease. I went back 4 generations. There's only one person with a history of heart problems from the result. Camila shook her head in annoyance. It's your dad. Damn it. Even after he's dead, he keeps causing problems. That Diablo. Edward POV. Something strange happened. Instead of her entire family who came, only Haley appeared at the house. I thought I muttered, confused. I peeked outside the house after I opened the door, but no one else was there. Well, they are coming. My dad and your dad want to have a barbecue. They are moving Jay's grill here. Haley muttered as she carried a food bag in her hand. Ah. I see. And what's this? I asked with my eyes glued on the bag. I was a bit hungry, and the smell from the bag wasn't helping. Haley blushed immediately and said, well, when you text me that you're coming home, I wanted to cook something for you. So I learned how to know, it's silly dash. Before she could change her mind, I grabbed the bag immediately and said, this is for me, right? No take backs. Wait. It's the first time I was cooking. So I don't know if it tasted good. Haley was embarrassed and tried to snatch the bag, but I tiled my arm to get the bag out of her reach. No. Take backs. Besides, I'm starving. I'll go put this in a bowl dash. Wait. Let me do it. She grabbed my hand and pulled me to the couch before dropping me on it. You sit here and rest. Don't do anything. She then blushed and went to the kitchen before coming back 5 minutes later with a hot bowl of soup. Oh, chicken soup. Nice. I muttered as I tried to grab the spoon, but she stopped me. She hid her embarrassment and avoided my eyes before saying, I'll feed you. Beep asterisk beep beep. Suddenly, the heart monitor sent out an alarm, causing Haley to be shocked. She placed her hand on top of my chest and said hurriedly, I'll call the doctor dash. The alarm stopped as I calmed myself down. No. It's fine. You just made my heart race for a bit. I muttered in embarrassment. Haley was taken aback and pulled her face away, before she blushed red. Oh. She muttered flatly. We couldn't look into each other's eyes, and I could feel that my heartbeat was racing again, therefore I changed the subject. So, the soup? Oh right. The soup. Haley muttered in realization. She then grabbed the spoon and gently blew at the hot soup. My eyes were glued on her face, and honestly, I couldn't look away. Before she could feed me, she hesitated. This will make the heart monitor beep again, right? There's a possibility. I muttered knowingly. But don't you dare stop. She blushed and then gently pushed the spoon into my mouth. I smiled as I ate it, and then the heart monitor beeped once more. Beep asterisk beep beep. Haley was startled again, and she hurriedly said, don't think too much. I'm just feeding a sick person. Calm down your heart. I smiled wryly and said, can you grab me a cup of water? You, not being here, will help me calm down. Okay. You should eat it by yourself first. She blushed and went to the kitchen obediently. As I saw she had disappeared, I stuck my tongue out and whimpered, salty. 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 It was like she had boiled the soup using ocean water. I couldn't help but send her away and grabbed my laptop bag to grab the bottle of water inside. I washed my mouth quickly, and then I heard her shouting, Ed. Where's your cup? Inside the top left drawer. I shouted back. Then, I grabbed the bowl of soup and decided to down it all in one shot before the taste hit. God. Help me. I prayed before I did it. Haley then came back and saw that I was eating the soup deliciously. Her eyes brightened and she smiled, Are you that starving? There's still some more left, do you want it? I grabbed the cup of water from her and acted calmly, Yes please. I gave the bowl to her and asked for a second serving. She smiled and skipped to the kitchen with a hum while I muttered sadly, Now I know why she gave me the Koto Amatsukami. It's to hypnotize myself so that I can finish the soup. Chapter 158, Truth or Lie? Edward POV. After finishing the entire soup without giving Haley a bite, I took a screwdriver and started to open up the backup heart monitor that the doctor provided without taking off the one I was wearing. Oh. Simple enough. I just need to tweak the sound system a bit. I mumbled before making some modification to the backup machine. What are you doing? Haley asked in confusion after she walked into the living room from the kitchen. This is a backup heart monitor. You dare to wear it? I asked her with a sly grin. Haley was taken aback and then refused. No. I don't want to. Just for 1 minute. I pleaded. She blushed and said, no. I don't want to expose what I'm thinking. Like you did. Haley's commentary. It's pretty dangerous. If that thing beeped in front of my family, then my mom won't let me stay alone with him anymore. But I think my dad will push us to be together, so I'm torn on whether to do it or not. Commentary ends. Come on. I'll personally put it on you. I tried to persuade her. She was hesitant before her eyes lit up in realization and smacked me on the shoulder. You just want to touch my boobs. Ah. You caught that, huh? I joked while Haley gave me a side-eye but with a face full of smiles. Edward. Are you feeling okay now? Phil asked in a careful manner as he entered the house through the backyard door after settling the grill with my dad. I shook my head and complained, no. Don't do that. Do what? Treat me like I'm going to break at the slightest touch. The only way you should greet me is by giving an excited shout like you always do. If you continue doing this, Phil, I'll resent you. I spoke honestly. Phil and Haley were taken aback, and they fell into contemplation. Phil smiled wryly and scratched his cheek before changing his expression and shouted, Edie. Are you excited for the fireworks? Now that's what I'm talking about. I stood up and gave Phil a light hug before we went to the backyard together. So Phil, wanna play with this? His eyes lit up as he saw the backup heart monitor. Play? How? Simple. The sensitivity of this thing is outstanding. It can even detect the heart fluctuation if you lied about something. Same as a lie detector. I muttered some nonsense before giving it to his hand. He hesitated a bit before seeing the heart monitor on my chest. His eyes lit up and he asked, Tell me a secret. I rolled my eyes in disbelief before saying, Alex had her first kiss today. Phil was taken aback, and even Haley followed us from behind was shocked. Both of them automatically gazed at the heart monitor, and found out it wasn't beeping. Wait. Really? Haley's eyes lit up, but Phil was depressed. Wait, Haley. It could still be a lie. Unless we see the dash. I have an STD. I mumbled with my hand in my pocket, and then the heart monitor started beeping. Phil's face turned deadpan and he knew that he couldn't argue with my statement anymore. Soon, Cam and Mitch joined in the party together with Lily. Gloria, Jay and Manny also arrived after getting back from the parade, together with Alex after Jay picked her up. Hi Gloria. Nice dress. I complimented as I saw her red, white and blue themed dress that hugged her body. She smiled and said, Thanks. Manny didn't like it. He said that I looked like the flag. I laughed a bit before explaining to the others about the lie detector game. So, you guys dare? Mitchell creased his eyebrow and said, I don't know. I think that this will bring disaster to our already strange relationship. Why? Do you have something to hide? Cam accused him directly. Mitchell blanked out, while Jay tried to stand up and ran, I'm leaving Dash. Come on Dad. Let's try it. Claire persuaded him while holding the edge of his shirt to prevent him from going away. Yeah. It's not like you have something to hide, right Jay? Gloria said with a smile while hiding her murderous gaze. Jay sighed and said, One question. Just one. To be clear, one question each, or one question total dash. Phil tried to get a clear statement. Total. Jay said gruffly. Alex. Will you do the honor of squirting some lube on Jay's chest and place the electrodes there? I asked Alex, who was standing behind me calmly. Wait. I'm starting? No, let Phil start it first. Jay pointed at Phil. No. Let Claire start first. Phil pointed at Claire. Wow, you really are suspicious of your own wife, huh? I wonder what question you have loaded in your mind. I chuckled a bit, which made Claire's face froze. Claire's commentary. This situation is turning dangerous. She muttered. A few days ago, I donated Phil's fun shoes because he never wore them. It was a Chewbacca shoe or something, anyway it was furry, and I don't like it staying inside my closet. Flashback to Claire screaming as she noticed the shoe inside the dim closet space. Back to the commentary, I thought it was a raccoon a few times. I just can't take it anymore. So, I went behind his back. Commentary ends. Can I squirt the lube? All the people there turned to look at me and towards Luke who's standing behind me who tried to mimic my voice. My heart monitor almost exploded as I really thought that I had blurted out my thoughts, but luckily I didn't. Claire smiled and said, well, you can't. Alex rolled her eyes at Luke before helping Claire set up the machine. After a minute, Claire was already strapped into the machine. Me. My question first. Phil shouted. Claire looked nervous, and she whispered, don't ask anything embarrassing, Phil. Don't worry. I only have one question. Phil smirked slyly before asking, do you think I'm funny? Well, Claire hesitated for a while, not knowing how to answer the question. Funny is a subjective thing. Claire mumbled. Well, come on, the question is not that hard. Answer it with yes or no. Mitchell urged while laughing at Claire's misery, not knowing that Cam was silently taking note of his reaction. Haley grabbed my shirt sleeves and gestured at me to lower my head. She then whispered, are you trying to spread chaos again? Well, a little bit. Don't worry, I'll try not to include sensitive things. Claire hesitated for a while before answering, yes. Phil. I think you're funny. All of them waited for the beep, but the machine was silent. Claire breathed in relief while Jay grumbled, that thing must be broken. Next question. I announced. Wait. How many questions should I answer? It can't be from all of you, right? Claire's face turned anxious, so I said, let's make it a rule that one person should answer only 3 questions. Okay. Me next. Claire, did you take my ice skating trophy? Mitchell asked. You're still hung up on that? Also, that's our trophy. Claire gritted her teeth angrily before answering, no. I didn't take the trophy. Wait, what? Mitchell was confused, so he turned to his dad. Jay sighed and said, you guys couldn't stop fighting after winning it, so your mother decided to donate the trophy back to the ice rink. How could she do that? She has no right to do that. Mitchell and Claire retorted at the same time. And you didn't stop her? Claire accused her dad. Jay just shrugged and didn't answer. So for all this time, I resented you for nothing? Mitchell said in realization. Wait, you resented me? Claire was shaken, but Cam interjected, me. Me. I'm next. Claire, did you keep my yellow top Tupperware after I gave you the pudding a month ago? Claire rolled her eyes and said defensively, no I didn't Cam dash. Beep asterisk beep beep beep. I knew it. Cam accused dramatically. I want it back today, Claire. He muttered as Mitchell calmed him down. Who's next? I asked, not minding the murderous gaze that Claire gave me. Claire's commentary. I wasn't lying. Luke's commentary. Mom didn't lie. The Tupperware wasn't in her house. I took it to store a bug before, and left it at the park. The Tupperware is gone. Commentary ends. Next will be Cam. I announced with a sly tone. Why are you so excited? Haley nudged me, causing everyone to look in my direction. Well, I have a question I want to ask him. Cam gulped his saliva and tried to make a poker face, but people could see that his chin was quivering. Alex went to attach the electrodes before I asked, Cam dash. Ed. I'm sorry, but it wasn't me who said your performance was mediocre in the after-concert interview. I said it wasn't mediocre, but the journalist twisted my words. That's not what I was going to ask, but thanks for telling the truth. I smiled before I turned to Phil. Can you pose sexily in front of Cam? Huh, X2. Phil and Cam were confused, but Phil stood up and posed anyway. I asked Cam the question, do you, Cam, think that Phil is sexy? Claire and Jay widened their eyes while Gloria laughed out loud. Come on, Cam. You can answer this. Gloria yelled. Huh, of course no. Cam muttered his truth, but then the heart monitor started beeping. Mitchell was flabbergasted and accused Cam, you said you're not attracted to him. Wait. I don't. Cam tried to defend himself, but the heart monitor beeped again this time. Cam was spooked, and then Gloria asked, well, Cam, do you think Jay is sexy too? No. Cam answered in a high-pitched voice before the monitor beeped again. Okay. That's all 3 questions. Next person. I interjected before Cam could argue and defend himself. His face turned pale white, and he was extremely distressed. Next is Phil. Can we stop this? Jay grumbled. No. I haven't got a turn yet. Gloria protested. Alex quickly helped her dad with the lie detector before Phil sat in a mediation pose with his legs crossed on top of the chair. Huh? Phil, what are you doing? Claire was confused. Phil turned to her and said, meditation can calm down your heart rate. I figured that if I want to beat the system, I should do this. I nodded in acknowledgement before muttering, all right. Anyone want to ask something? Oh. I do. Jay sat straight and gazed at Phil. When you dated Claire, you have that fluffy feather earring. Why did you take it off? You can only ask something I can answer yes or no to. Also, Claire told me to take it off. Phil muttered sagely while meditating. Claire was a bit embarrassed, and she leaned towards Phil before asking, next. I want to know. Phil, are you still finding me attractive? With all my heart. Phil replied without hesitation. The heart monitor didn't beep, which made Claire hug him in contentment. Oh, you're going to be rewarded for this tonight. Claire mumbled while holding Phil's face. Luke suddenly asked, what do you mean by reward? Phil and Claire froze while Alex replied, Luke. That means they are dash. Alex, stop. Claire shouted hurriedly before turning to Luke, no. Mommy just means that she's going to take Dad out for ice cream tonight. Yeah. Strawberry flavored. Phil added before Claire shouted at him, Phil. Huh? V vanilla? Phil was flustered. Oh, ice cream. Nice euphemism. Cam and Mitchell chuckled together before Claire glared at them. That became even more dirty. I muttered while laughing together with Haley. Phil was nervous, but he kept his cool until Luke's Iron Man figurine heads dropped underneath Gloria's chair. Gloria. Can you get it? Luke asked. Okay. Gloria spread her leg and bent down without getting off the chair, exposing her deep gully at the same time. Phil and I were in a daze as we saw it, and Phil's heart monitor beeped at that time. Phil. Claire cupped her hand over Phil's eyes immediately. Haley scrutinized my chest and furrowed her eyebrows. Why are yours quiet? She asked. I shrugged and said, I didn't get a good look. Got it. Gloria picked up the tiny Iron Man head she was searching for in excitement, not knowing what just happened. Next is Gloria. I muttered before asking, have you ever been arrested before? Gloria's smile froze and she avoided people's eyes. Pass. Wait, you can pass the question? Phil muttered in disbelief, wondering why he didn't think about it before. All right then. Did you ever keep a machete in the back of your car? I asked again. Gloria cleared her throat and then mumbled, yes. A long time ago. Wait, let me ask you next. Are you still keeping a deadly weapon in your car nowadays? Jay asked with a hint of concern. Gloria yelled, "Pass." Nah. You can only pass one time. Jay interjected quickly. Gloria's eyes shook and she muttered, "No?" Beep asterisk beep beep. Gloria's commentary. I knew I should have put some thumbtacks in my shoes to throw off the lie test. Gloria slapped her forehead as she was disappointed in herself to not use the knowledge and experience she had. Commentary ends. Okay. Let's explode some fireworks. Gloria stood up and she pulled the electrodes from her cleavage before handing it over to Alex. Then, she walked away. Wait. Gloria, we still haven't done Jay and Mitch. I tried to persuade him. Hold on. Why just us? Jay asked with a sly look. What do you mean? I was taken aback at first, but then I realized it. Well, you are wearing the machine now. So why not you? And Haley's already almost 16, so why exclude her? Jay said. Sure. Strap on the lie detector on a teenage girl. That's like handing a loaded gun to her parents and helping them aim it at the back of her head. I muttered in concern before turning to Haley, run. I'll take the heat on this one. She smiled and said, I'll run after watching you answer the question. Well, I heard something interesting about the hot tub while I was installing it. Jay suddenly exposed me. You put on extra security there because you want to soak in it nude? Well, not just me, but yes. I replied casually, not embarrassed about my motives at all. Oh. We should borrow it sometimes. Phil mumbled, which caused Claire to glare at him. Me. Gloria raised her hand and shouted excitedly, Are you dating Taylor? Not at the moment. All right, last question. I turned to the crowd, and then Phil raised his arms up quickly. Well, my question is kinda sensitive. I don't mind it. I replied, as I was controlling the result anyway. Okay then. It can be all of us, or either one of us, but do you have someone here that you find attractive? The crowd while Haley blushed, but then I answered casually, yeah. I do. The beep didn't go off, and they once more. And it's Claire. I added, causing Phil to freeze. And also Gloria. I added again, and Jay froze. And a little bit of Jay. I added once more, causing Jay to shake, and Gloria to froze. What the hell? Jay cursed, but his lips were curling a bit. Then, I took out the car key that I modified in my pocket and pressed the switch in front of them. Beep asterisk beep beep beep. AH. You little scoundrel. Jay grumbled before laughing out loud. You've been lying to us and manipulating us. Cam muttered in disbelief. That's horrifying, and also quite ingenious. Claire muttered in astonishment. I made a performer's bow before saying, You guys figure out which one is the lie and truth on your own. Oh no, mister. You're not brushing this thing off. Claire grabbed my shirt before I could walk away. Phil was excited and he said quickly, Claire, you didn't think I was funny? Claire was taken aback and she said quickly, What? Phil, I think you're so funny. You're the funniest man I've ever met. If you really think so, then strap on the lie detector to test it again. Mitchell asked quickly. Well, I'm really thankful that he stopped the show before it got to me. Jay grumbled while sipping his beer. My dad finished grilling the meat while I was being admonished by the group of people, and before long, the night sky darkened. My friends all gathered inside my house before we moved towards an open field together, at a desolate place outside of the neighborhood. Jacob and his family were here. Elsa and Jenna came together. Phineas and Billy rode a bike to get there together with Enid. And Abraham came with his cousin and carried a truckload of fireworks with him. Can you guys all stand behind me? Or just generally far away from here? Beep asterisk beep beep. Ed. Your heart is racing. What's wrong? My dad asked in confusion. Haley and my friends had a worried expression on their faces. Nothing. I just have a bad feeling being around explosive things. I mumbled as I feared for the worse. I honestly don't know whether having the fire immunity skill was a good thing or a bad thing for me. It made me become very anxious whenever I could think about a possible situation that needed it. Don't worry. My cousin is a licensed firework starter. Abraham shouted in excitement. There's something like that? My aunt asked him in astonishment. He shrugged and said, there is when your name got registered by the police. Are you sure you didn't mean arsonist? I asked him jokingly. Then, his cousin lit up the firework, and it flew up into the sky. Boom asterisk boom boom. A beautiful greenish firework exploded and illuminated the night sky. My nervousness soon lightened as I saw that everything was going well. He said what? Alex shouted to her dad while the firework was ongoing. You told my dad Phineas kissed me? She shouted at me in anger. Phineas was taken aback when he heard it, while Jenna was excited as she heard the tantalizing piece of information/slander. I laughed and was chased by Alex for a while as we watched the fireworks. It took almost 30 minutes for the fireworks to end, and after hanging out with my friends for over 2 hours in that place, we finally retired for the day. Chapter 159. Wisconsin, Part 1. General POV. Hi, and you're back to watching MTV News. The MTV logo turned to a picture of Edwards leaving the hospital before the concert. Teenage pop star Edward Newgate had found himself in a perilous situation yet again when he was rushed to the hospital at midnight before the 4th of July. The details of the situation have been confirmed by our investigation on the scene. Here's what had happened. Edward Newgate was rushed to the hospital because of a heart failure, and he was placed on life support immediately by the doctors. Moments before the doctor could announce his time of death, he miraculously woke up from his condition, stunning all the doctors in the world. The screen showed the toxicology report of Edward that was leaked purposely by Entertain Company to make sure that people wouldn't accuse Edward of abusing harmful substances. His peculiar condition was nicknamed by the doctors, calling it the Sleeping Beauty Syndrome. It is still uncertain whether or not his situation is harmful to his well-being, or will he need another miracle to continue living. On another note, the Entertain Company had sent out a notice saying that Edward Newgate's debut album, Breaking, will be released earlier than the notice, pulling the release date forward to 7th of July. The fans were sending prayers to Edward Newgate from all over the world, and we hope that he can get through his predicament and return to the stage for his world tour launching in a few more weeks. The screen changed to a clip interview with Robert Downey answering a question about Edward in his Iron Man promotional campaign interview. The interview asked about Edward's condition, and our DJ replied with a heavy smile, "Yeah. I called him as soon as I heard the news. He told me he was fine and the others were exaggerating, so I guess he doesn't want to make people worry about him." "But you did?" the interviewer asked. Our DJ nodded and said, "Of course. I'm pretty damn worried about him. I even considered barging over there with my Iron Man costume to fulfill his Make-A-Wish request, but he was discharged before I could do that." The actor wasn't joking. He really did consider doing so. He told me he needs to wear a heart monitor right now, and most importantly, his condition is not life-threatening. Like the nickname the doctor gave his condition, he was actually sleeping the entire time. Our DJ continued. Then, the screen changed to a clip interview of Taylor after she got out backstage from her concert in Vegas. Taylor was hounded about Edward and whether she was going to see him, but Taylor refused to comment on the subject and walked to her SUV quickly. However, the camera recorded her reddish eyes and pale face as she had just gotten the news. Next up, Brittany had shown us another shocking action by shaving her head. Edward POV. You're a bastard, you know that? Taylor cursed while Skyping with me in the morning as we watched the MTV interviews together. Not only MTV were reporting the celebrity gossip, Edward's condition and his album release date has been reported by major news channels such as BBC, CNN, etc. Well, I'd be stupid if I missed this opportunity. I muttered while shaking my head slightly. I know. That's why I said you're a bastard. Do you know how many of your fans are crying right now? Taylor admonished me. To be clear, her reddish eye and upset demeanor after leaving the concert hall was true. Her concert ended at 11 p.m., and she was resting in the building until she read a text message from Selena telling her what had happened. She wanted to use a helicopter to go to the hospital immediately, but I woke up in time to stop her. It took me a lot of effort to convince her that I was fine, and to make sure that she didn't cancel her fan meet the next day because of me. Although she was doubtful about the authenticity of my word, she calmed down after I requested a favor from Dr. House to vouch for me. "So, you're banking on this incident to sell more albums?" Taylor asked with a skeptical look. "Obviously." I shrugged and shook my head at the same time. She narrowed her eyes and said, "It's not like in the rumors that you're only doing this because you don't have much time left, right?" "Well, who do you think spread the rumors?" I smirked slyly, causing Taylor's hair to rise behind her neck. "You demon. Ugh. You're seriously a monster. How could I ever be attracted to you?" Taylor complains seriously. I then leaned forward and flirted, "But you are turned on right now, right? Stop joking around, and yes, so come back from Wisconsin soon." She licked her lips before sending me away with a warm smile. The decision to take advantage of the chaos was decided arbitrarily after I went back from the hospital. Not only would it do some damage control on the whole incident, it also served as a promotional material for my album release. And yes, I also agreed with Taylor that my approach was highly unethical to take advantage of people's vulnerability. I was in a dilemma at first, but it helped me to control the narrative by myself, so I went ahead and did it. Also, I had to defend myself in this one. None of the information that I had sent out was untrue, well, except for the rumor. But it wasn't even me who came out with the theory. I just fanned out the fire by pushing it to the main discussion of the forum thread. Am I really feeling guilty right now? Pull yourself together. I mumbled to myself before I walked down the stairs while carrying a small luggage. My dad was eating a sandwich that I had made for breakfast before he said, "Okay. Let's go." Your grandparents had already called me 3 times this morning to ask if we were on the flight yet. Did you tell her that we can't use our phones in the air and will call as soon as we land? I asked with a puzzled look. My dad was silent for a while before saying, "I didn't think of that." "Where's Aunt Camila?" I asked after I took a look around. "I want to say goodbye before we leave." My dad was hesitant and he grabbed my shoulder. "Well, Ed, a change of plans." My aunt suddenly appeared from behind me with a small baggage in her shoulder. "I'm coming with you." Isn't that exciting? I scowled after being stunned for a few seconds. "You're just coming because you want to keep an eye on me." Honestly, when will this nightmare end? For all of us, when the doctor finally came out with a diagnosis. Until then, buckle up, my dad said with a grin. I scoffed and grabbed my sandwich. A driver from my agency picked us up and drove us to the private airport where we used the private plane to fly to Wisconsin. What's that? Reducing carbon footprint? I'm sorry. I'm not Greta Dash. Ed, what are you mumbling about? My dad asked in confusion while sitting in an aisle in front of me, sitting face to face with my aunt. Nothing, I shouted back before turning on the TV channel to watch a movie during the flight. I picked Enchanted by Disney and was enjoying watching the movie for the first time in my 2 lives. As I saw the Princess Giselle summon animals using her voice, I got an inspiration to try something out. A mimicking Amy Adam? Ha! Edward, what are you doing? My aunt asked as she laughed at my effort. I was a bit embarrassed and said, I don't know. I feel like I can do that too. I was wondering if I could use my soul voice and animal affinity that was enhanced by my afterlife aura to become a real-life Disney princess prince. If by any chance I could make it work, then it would be game-changing for me. A paparazzi wanted to follow me around? A swarm of rats will drag them to the pits of hell. Someone wants to spy on me from afar? They need to pass my murder of crows first, and also my cat army. What are you thinking about that you're grinning from ear to ear? My dad asked in confusion as he walked by to grab a cup of water for himself. It's not like we didn't have a flight attendant, but he wanted to check up on me. I scowled a bit before saying flatly, world domination. All right. Normal boy's thoughts. It's my dad for interfering. Continue. My dad waved dismissively under my unsatisfied gaze before he returned to his seat. Just to be clear, he's mad because of the way they were treating him, but at the same time he couldn't get mad at them as their concern is valid. Hi Grandma Jules. Hi Grandpa Sam. I greeted after getting out of the airport. My grandpa looks kinda like the other Ron from Parks and Recs, while my grandmother looks like Marshall's mother from Him. My grandmother has wavy rusty hair with a tall and still attractive figure even when she was almost 55 years old this year. She opened her arms and said in a sweet and warm voice, Edward. It's been so long. She pulled me into her embrace, and I was surprised that I could only reach her bosom as the woman was freakishly tall. In fact, in the family, my dad was considered to be the runt of the litter with his 185 centimeters tall height. Even my grandmother was taller than him, and she loves to wear high-heel shoes when going out. Edward's grandmother, Susie's Plaxon, aka Marshall's mother. Sam Elliott, Ted's dad/Edward's grandpa. Dad. Ted nodded slightly at his dad. Son. My grandpa replied with a nod too. The old white-haired man with a cowboy hat and thick white mustache turned towards me before smiling slightly and patted me on the shoulder. You've grown. I know. I replied casually. My grandparents smiled before my grandma said excitedly, we should hurry home. I've spent all night making a perfect brisket for you. I know how much you love Grandma's brisket. My eyes lit up, oh. I can't wait. Did you slaughter the cow at the ranch? My grandmother hesitated while my grandpa smiled, yes. I picked the one that looks the juiciest. Nice. I nodded before wiping my imaginary saliva. By the way, Ted. Is this your new wife? My grandpa pointed out casually as he saw my aunt. You sure like them Latinas. Camila and Ted were stunned before Camila got flustered and offered her hand to my grandparent, hi. I am not his new wife. I'm his ex-wife's younger sister, so I'm Ed's aunt, technically. My grandmother's eyes lit up, oh. So you're part of the family. Come here you. She walked towards my aunt and gave her a big hug while my grandpa just nodded at her. Camila was taken aback at first before she just went with us. She smells like Canada, right? I whispered to my aunt after my grandmother released her. Canada? Maple syrup and vanilla. Oh right. Canada wait, why vanilla? She almost went with it before she got confused by the category. I turned to her and said in a normal voice, well you know we got vanilla through a beaver's anus? And the beaver is Canada's official mascot. What? She widened her eyes in disbelief. Ed, don't prank your aunt. My dad interrupted quickly. My aunt rolled her eyes while I laughed. Is Uncle Aaron here? I asked as we got in the van. No. But your Aunt May and cousin are here. My grandma replied excitedly. Aunt May. If only my name is Peter. I mumbled to myself. Then you're the real-life Spider-Man? My aunt said in a sarcastic manner. I turned to her and nodded, you do get me. We then took a 40-minute drive inside my grandpa's van he used to pick up the guest for the ranch. Luckily for us, he didn't use the pickup truck or else me and my dad had to sit at the back during the whole journey. There's a mountain lion being spotted at the mountain trail, so don't wander off too far, okay, Ed? My grandpa advised as we passed by the hiking trail entrance. Don't worry, Grandpa. I'm not even planning to get out of the house. I replied, causing my grandparents to be confused. We could finally see the ranch after a while. The grass was green, cows and horses were grazing on the field. The ducks and the chicken were waddling around. And almost every animal that we passed through were looking at me weirdly as they saw me. What's he talking about, Ted? My grandmother asked with a whisper as she stole a gaze at me. My dad hesitated, I'll tell you what's going on when we get home. After explaining about my situation to my grandparents, my grandmother hugged me for a long time. She didn't let go for over 20 minutes of burying my face in her bosom. Oh, you poor child. My grandmother tried to comfort me. I'm actually pretty rich right now. I joked after I could finally breathe. All right. You go and wash up before we have dinner. My grandmother ordered. Granted, it was only 4 p.m., but here in the ranch, we have dinner early, we went to sleep early, and we also wake up early. Which room should I stay in? I asked in confusion. My grandparents suddenly realized something and looked at each other. Oh no. There's only 2 beds left. What? I was in disbelief. My dad then muttered nervously, but we have 3 people. It's fine. Ed can bunk with his cousin Amy like they always do. My grandmother muttered sweetly. A teenage girl suddenly walked towards the living room and was stunned as she heard the statement. The red-haired girl with a short stature said hurriedly, "Grandma, no. We're already teenagers. It's weird for me to bunk with a boy." She was wearing a black crop shirt and a jean short. She also has a large chain necklace on her neck as she was in her punk era. Jenna Coleman, Amy. And hello to you too. I rolled my eyes at her before saying to my grandmother, "Don't worry, Grandma. I'll just bunk with Dad." No. Your dad's bed is a single bed. But there's a double bed in Amy's room. My grandmother said in an oblivious manner. Or we can throw him with the cows. My cousin Amy shot me a dirty look. There's no difference between that and staying in the same room as you. I replied back. She was irritated and almost lunged at me, but I held her short head with my arm, making her swing her fist uselessly. Seriously, Grandma? No. I muttered. Nonsense. It'll be fine, Edward. My grandmother waved her hand dismissively as she had already made the decision. My grandpa then threw my luggage inside the room before I could say anything to him. This is going to be a long 5 days. I rubbed my face in frustration before going to wash up before dinner. Oh, I should tell you. I invited Miss Allison from the church to join us today. My grandmother said before walking away. Who's Miss Allison? I was confused. Just a new friend of mine. She moved here from New York to teach the kindergarten here, and everyone in the town loves her. My grandmother replied. Well, we'll see about that later. I muttered suspiciously. Ding dong asterisk. Suddenly the doorbell rang. My grandmother clasped her hand in excitement and went to open up the door in a hurry. Hi, Jules. You're looking even prettier today. The energetic woman who's wearing a pink cardigan said excitedly as she was welcomed into the house. I widened my eyes in shock as she was incredibly gorgeous and also quite familiar. Jennifer Garner? How, why, what? My mind was a mess as I saw her. She looked at me and suddenly gasped, Prince Edward? Who? Ah, right. You're famous now? My cousin said sarcastically as Jennifer Garner, I meant Miss Amy, was stunned to see me. Allison shook her head quickly to snap herself back to reality and said, Edward Newgate. Hi. It's a pleasure to meet you. Hi. Miss Allison. You're incredibly pretty. And I can guess why my grandmother invited you here, but right now I got a feeling that I want to compete with my dad Dash. Ed, don't say nonsense. My aunt stopped me hurriedly. Also. Ted. Wipe that drool off your face. Hi. I'm Camila. My aunt then introduces herself calmly. You must be Edward's fan? Oh yes. I'd also followed him on Instagram, Twitter, forum, and I'm even in his fan club. Allison said in embarrassment. Oh, Edward? You're that famous? My grandmother asked in surprise. My granddad was nonchalant and he asked, You're making decent money? Yes. And yes. I replied casually. Now. Where's that brisket? I rubbed my hands together in anticipation. My grandmother laughed and told me she was proud of me for a few more minutes before we could finally get to the meat. I met my Aunt May at the dinner table, which, if you're curious, she didn't look like Melissa Tomei, but just looked like a younger version of my grandmother. Ed, do you want to say grace? My grandmother said as we held hands together at the dinner table. My grandma was a hardcore Baptist, but the rest of the family is not so much. No thanks. I shook my head, causing my grandma's head to droop in disappointment. I can lead it, Grandma. My cousin said hurriedly. Suck up. I whispered to her. Sell out. She whispered back. All right. No concert tickets for you then. And oh. I want to go. She quickly changed her attitude and begged me. Chapter 160, Wisconsin, Part 2, Awkward Dinner. Edward POV. I had a melancholic feeling in my stomach as I sat at the long dinner table together with my extended family member. At the head of the table was my grandpa, and my grandmother was sitting near him, on the same side of the chairs as my Aunt May, myself and also the teacher. On the other side was my dad, Camila, and also my annoying cousin Amy. There was an empty seat for my Uncle Aaron, my other cousin and my uncle-in-law Amy's dad, Jim. Where's Uncle Jim? I asked my Aunt May as I passed the bread to Allison. My aunt smiled proudly and said, well, he's taking Maggie to California to visit her college. He'll be back tomorrow. Oh, I'm so proud of her. I furrowed my eyebrow and said, oh, she's got into Santa Clara, right? That's only an hour away from our house. By the way, why didn't you tell me? They can ride back here with us. My grandmother interrupted, oh, it's fine. They bought the tickets a month ago. I don't want it to go to waste. Well, you can actually get a refund, and then ride home for free. I said with a smirk. My grandparents and my aunt were confused. I asked them, how do you think we got here? You buy a ticket, right? My grandpa asked. Edward's got a plane. My Aunt Camila blurted out. You got a plane? My grandmother shouted in disbelief. Hey! I want to say that. I laughed at my aunt while the rest of my family was stunned. So Grandma and Grandpa, if you want to go somewhere, just give me a heads up and I'll arrange it for you. As long as it doesn't interfere with his performance schedule. My dad added. Mockingly, as long as it doesn't interfere. My cousin was murmuring by herself, so I catapulted a green pea at her using a spoon. Hey! You little dash. You're the one who's little now, strawberry shortcake. I interjected. She humphed and pouted before saying, I haven't hit puberty yet. Your growth spurt started 2 years ago. Admit it. This is as far as you'll grow. Ed, don't tease Amy so much. She will cry. My aunt said gently. I nodded at her and said, well, she used to tease me a lot in the past years. Now, she has to experience the consequences of her actions. My cousin sneered and said, a nice way of saying that you can never beat me before, so you can only use your newfound height to suppress me. Yes. I said while pointing at her. She got irritated, but I ignored her response. My dad smiled as we heard her. Granted, I did succumb to her bullying a few years back, but it wasn't a hostile bullying situation, and the main reason that I always lose was because my dad asked me to be gentle when dealing with a little girl. What about Uncle Aaron? I asked. Amy was playing with her food before she said, didn't you hear? Huh? What happened to him? Well, he got divorced. His wife was cheating on him with the town pastor. Amy spilled the tea. I widened my eyes in surprise, then my grandmother cleared her throat and said, Amy, please. Not in front of the guest. Well, I guess she's been calling him daddy too in addition to father. I added, causing my grandmother to look at me in disbelief while Amy was laughing. Allison laughed awkwardly as my grandmother smiled at her. So, Ed, how rich are you now? My grandpa asked to change the subject. I could live comfortably for a few years if I stopped now. I replied. My granddad nodded his head in approval and said, just don't lose yourself in your riches. That's the most important thing. Sam, you're not asking him more about the plane? My grandmother asked in both shock and anger. Well, what's more to ask? He got a plane. My granddad replied in a tired manner. So, Allison, tell me about yourself. I asked in a magnetic voice as I looked at the Jennifer Garner look-alike who sat next to me at the long dinner table. She blushed a bit and brushed her hair behind her ear while I kept staring at her face intently. Edward, you're making her feel uncomfortable, my grandmother said in a scolding manner. I pretended to have a realization and asked, oh, did I really? I'm sorry, Miss Allison. Oh. No. I'm not uncomfortable at all. Miss Allison spoke quickly. I turned to my grandmother with a grin, see? She's not uncomfortable at all. My grandmother rolled her eyes before getting back to her food while I flirted with the kindergarten teacher. Well, I am currently teaching a kindergarten class in town. And I just moved here a month ago. What else? What else? Oh right, I love my job, and I hope that the kids in my class will warm up with me soon. Most of the boys seem to avoid me, and I'm not quite sure why. She was excited about her job, and it was clear to see on her face. Her dimple caught my eyes and my heart couldn't help but skip a beat as she accidentally met my gaze. It's because they have a crush on you, I muttered, causing her to widen her eyes before blushing. No, they're not. She shook her head shyly. No. I'm sure that they are. I can say confidently that 9 out of 10 boys in the class have a crush on you. I would have had a crush on you if you're my teacher. I maintained eye contact while slowly pouring the wine in her glass. It's hard not to when you see the perfect woman in front of you, I added. You're kidding. Miss Allison fanned her hot face, but it wasn't because she had just eaten my grandmother's spicy chili. What about the 1/10? My cousin interjected, destroying the mood. They are already developing towards love. Unlike you who has stunted development. Also, eat your peas and don't bother the adult while they are talking. She grimaced and smacked the table. I'm older than you. I scoffed and said, by 3 days. It's not surprising that you're born on the 1st of April given how much of a joke you are. She gasped while Miss Allison was chuckling. Seeing that she was humiliated in front of a guest she kinda likes, she exploded. Oh, that's it. You and me. Outside, right now. She stood up quickly and slammed her napkin on her empty table. I smiled, but before I could answer, my dad interjected, Amy. Can I ask you for a favor to not wrestle with Ed today? But Dad, it's fine. I want to take my revenge after all of these years of getting bullied by her. Now that I'd hit puberty, she had lost all of her chance to ever win against me in a fair fight. She scoffed and said, Who said I'm going to fight fairly? She gazed at my crotch, which alarmed me a little bit. It made me understand that I need to protect my weak part in the fight after this. Amy. Please sit. My aunt said in a stern manner, unbecoming of her temperament. I furrowed my eyebrow in irritation while Amy was shaken and she sat down obediently after that. My grandmother was concerned, Amy. They're kids. And the homecoming is not complete without Amy and Edward fighting each other. But you know what just happened to Edward. My aunt muttered, causing me to frown. I'm fine, Aunt May. Don't worry about me. This is all nothing. I replied to her, but my dad interrupted me. Amy. I'm sorry. But for Edward's sake. Don't rile him up too much these few days, okay? My dad asked sincerely. Dad. I told you I'm fine. I said with a hint of agitation in my tone. Well, that's not up to you to decide, isn't it? My dad blurted out in an angry voice subconsciously. My grandmother was taken aback, while I narrowed my eyes at him. I sighed without saying anything before changing the subject. Grandma. Grandpa. I'm confused about something. What is it, dear? She asked in a sweet manner while my granddad just looked at me. Well, you're 55. And my dad is 45. Considering that Uncle Aaron is the firstborn and is at 50 years old this year, he has a 5 years old age difference with you. So, gasp. Grandpa. It's not what you think. My grandpa said quickly with a nervous voice. My aunt was shaking while my grandpa raised his head from his plate to stare at me. My grandmother laughed and said, "That took you long enough to find out." Find out what? My cousin Amy was confused. Well, I have figured it out years before, but I have no courage to ask it. I muttered in a casual manner. Well, my grandmother wasn't my true grandmother after all. My grandpa's first wife died of tuberculosis while my dad was 17, and my Aunt May was the result of my grandpa's second marriage. So that made Amy my second cousin. I think. I'm not so sure about it. Wait. What? My cousin was shocked when she realized it. Dummy. I insulted her. It took a while for my grandmother to finish the story, and without me knowing it, I had already finished with my food. I wiped my mouth with a napkin before saying to the crowd, "Excuse me. I have some work matters to attend to." Then, I stood up and left the dinner table and went to my room after washing my dishes in the kitchen sink. I'll go with you. My cousin stood up and followed me from behind. General POV. Allison. I'm sorry for Edward. The grandmother said. Oh, not at all. He's been really nice. It's even, kinda unexpected. Allison smiled warmly. Grandpa Sam sighed after Edward left the dinner table. Do you really have to poke the wasp's nest like that? You can see that Edward is barely maintaining his temper around you. What a good kid. If you were my dad, I'd already shot you. Sam muttered with some annoyance. Ted shook his head in disappointment, but his disappointment wasn't with others, but with himself. I know. I made a mistake. It's not Ted's fault. He's been in so much pressure these last 2 days. Camila muttered worriedly. Granny Jules held Ted's hand and said sweetly, Ted honey. I know that you're worried about Edward. But putting a bubble wrap on him won't work. I'm not. I just want him to take it easy for a while. But he would not listen to me. Ted said pitifully. The grandmother patted his arm to comfort him while Aunt May said, he's in a rebellious age. Of course he won't listen to you. It's the same thing with Amy. I just hope that they won't cause chaos like they did before again. Last time when they released the cows from the shed, I had to search all over the town to find it. One of them was found staring at a ribeye poster at a restaurant parking lot, and I'm pretty sure that the cow is still traumatized. Grandpa Sam muttered. Edward POV. Who are you calling? Your girlfriend? My cousin badgered me as I laid down on the bottom part of the double-decker bed. She was peeking at me from the top bunk, and was annoying me the whole time as I got myself settled. Shut up or I'll place you on top of the fridge. I warned her. She sneered and said, try it. I'll tear your balls off before you can do it. Shoo Amy. I shushed her as the call was connected. Hey Haley. How's your first day of family camp? I asked her with a laugh. It's pretty freaking awful. The mosquitoes are feasting on my blood. I've been bitten almost 20 times already. She complained. Also, there isn't any network line in places other than the dorm, so I was bored out of my mind the whole day. Ah. That's harsh. I listened intently. I know, right? And to think I have to spend 2 weeks living like a savage over here. Do you know how much gossip I'll miss out on? And when I get back, all of them will already be irrelevant. That's true. I nodded and asked, you have another activity planned for tonight, right? Yeah. The stupid art and culture night thing. Dad wants to audition for a part, which is so embarrassing. Oh. What kind of play is it? I asked curiously. I don't know. I don't remember, and I'm not interested, Haley replied in annoyance. But this is something good. And you should definitely make your dad audition for the main lead part. He's not going to do that. He wants to get started on a small part. Haley stopped her sentence in realization. I smirked and said, you noticed it too, right? He wants to get started small, then the next few years, he's going to vie for bigger and bigger parts. So you're going to have to go to family camp for years. You're right. Haley was in disbelief. Oh, that guy is so slick. I was almost tricked by him. I'm going to make sure that he gives it all and peaked in this camp. That way, he won't be coming here anymore. I laughed a bit and said, good. You should join him too. I'd already told Alex to email me pictures after you all got home. Also, talking about a slick dad, want to hear something awful? Why? What did your dad do now? Is he sleeping in the corridor in front of your room again? Haley asked with a chuckle. Nah. He and my grandma made it seem like we don't have enough room and made me bunk with my demonic midget spawn cousin. Hey! Amy shouted in offense as she could hear everything. Haley was taken aback. Oh. Your cousin is a girl? Yeah. But don't worry. We're not in Alabama, so it's safe. I joked. Haley snorted as she held back her laugh. She was clear about the Alabama joke as I explained it to her before. Why Alabama? Amy asked in confusion. Don't your mother tell you it's not good behavior to eavesdrop on someone's conversation? I scolded her before going back to the call. Why are you so mean to me? Amy yelled in annoyance and teary eyes before running out of the room. Ed. Did she cry? You're being really mean if she cried. Haley muttered in concern. I was shocked when I saw Amy running out and muttered, yeah, I guess I did. Although in my defense, she started it. Huh? What did she do? Haley asked in intrigue. Well, if you must know, it started during the summer when we were 7 years old. Flashback 5 years ago. A young Edward with a messy wolf-cut hairstyle opened the fridge and took out a box of Eggo, frozen waffle brand, only to find it was empty. He looked at the young Amy who was eating the waffle in front of the TV and said, Did you eat the last Eggo and put the empty box back into the fridge? Yeah. Amy replied non-committedly. She then smiled and said instigatively, That must suck, huh, Vivaldi? You played with my feelings. I was excited to have an Eggo on my last morning here, but you ruined it with your devil-tainted pranks. I will never forgive you for this. Seemingly challenged by Edward's declaration, Amy muttered, Oh yeah? Then how about this? She then dropped the half-eaten waffle on the floor on purpose right in front of Edward's angry gaze. Flashback ends. So, your fight started since then? Haley muttered in disbelief. Yeah. That's why you should never test me about food stuff. Especially the sweet one I could never have when I returned back to my home. I held a really long grudge about that. I explained. You know what? I want to say be mature, but I'm sure you'll already know better. Haley muttered. Mom's here. I have to go. All right. I'll call you tomorrow? I stood up and tried to figure out which way Amy went. And don't you dare forget about it. Haley said before ending the call. I searched all over the house before walking to the barn and then the stables, but I couldn't find where Amy had run off to. Damn that midget. I cursed before I met Apollo, our shepherd dog who was taking care of the goats. Hey big guy. Long time no see. I petted the old dog for a while, causing him to wag his tail in excitement. Do you know where Amy went? I asked the dog. He then turned his head to the direction of the hill. I sighed and asked, Can you lead me to her? He nodded and walked in front of me a few steps before stopping and turning his head back to make sure that I was following him. We walked for over 10 minutes before I could finally see where Amy had gone. She was sitting inside a tire swing under an oak tree, wiping her tears with the back of her hand as she processed her emotion. "Amy?" I called out. She was surprised to see me there. "Go away, Ed. I know you don't like me too." Apollo left me behind and went towards Amy before he put his head on her feet, trying to cheer her up. "Two? Who else doesn't like you? That position is reserved just for me, so I need to know who dares to snatch it." I joked as I walked close to her, but a murderous glint shined in my eyes. She was silent, so I persuaded, "Come on. Talk to me." "No," she pouted and turned her head away to avoid looking at my face. "Come on. I'm sorry I called you a demonic midget. That's unfair. You're not a demon," I said. "But I am a midget?" She shouted incredulously before standing up. "You have a lot of nerve calling me after you ignored me for almost 3 years. Now you're back, and you hate me, and my stomach is cramping, and my sister is going away, and everything has changed, and I don't know what to do." Her chin quivered and her eyes were red, but she stared at me right in the face as if telling me that it was my fault for all of that happening to her. I was stunned for a bit and then I smiled wryly. "Well, I'm sorry for the part where I got something to do with it." "As if. You must be pretty happy right now. With your singing career taking off, your private plane, dating a star. I hope that you'll choke on the heroin you're pushing up your nose." "I haven't done drugs yet though," I replied casually. "Also, I said I'm sorry. What more do you want?" She was irritated and she stood up. "Come at me." "Huh?" I was confused when I saw her getting into a stance. "I know one day you'll be taller than me, so I've been learning martial arts to take you down when it happens." "Oh. Good for you. Stop being so smirky. I'll throw you down on the floor. But I need you to lunge at me first as I haven't learned how to do it when you're standing still." I laughed out loud and said, "Give up. I also have a black belt in martial arts." She widened her eyes in surprise and said, "Really? Phew, you ought okay." I waited for her to vent out her emotion first before saying, "Let's go back. I'll pop some Eggo into the microwave for you, how's that sound? I'm not still a child." She scoffed before her eyes shook in hesitation. "Will you put some whipped cream on it too?" "As much as you want," I promised. She then thought for a while and then said, "Okay. But one more word about my height, and I swear to God that I'll throw you down this hill." She saw my smirking face and then her face turned horrified. "I'll tell Grandma that you used God's name in vain." "What? No, I didn't. Eddie." I walked away quickly and she had to run after me from behind to make sure that I didn't rat her out to our grandmother. Apollo followed us around in excitement as we walked back to our house. From her little tantrum episode, I noticed one thing. If you asked me what the Dunphys were doing, and how their life was going, I could answer it all in detail. But when it comes to my own family, I didn't know a damn thing about what was going on in their lives right now. I didn't know that Amy had become more introverted after her boyfriends didn't want to play with her anymore once they hit puberty, so she had been feeling quite left out. I didn't know that Uncle Aaron had a divorce, which was a pretty big deal for me not to know anything about. I should help him get back to his feet soon. And also while I was helping, maybe I could convince him to bring me to a strip club. "Well, I hope tomorrow will be better," I muttered before going to sleep. The sky was still dark out when a loud chicken's crow suddenly startled me from my sleep. Amy almost fell from the top bunk in surprise and I sat up hurriedly. Then we both turned to the corner of our room where a dumb-looking chicken had infiltrated too. "How in the hell?" I muttered in confusion, not knowing how the rooster managed to get in. My grandpa barged into the room before we could collect ourselves and said, "Mornin'. Brush your teeth and meet me at the barn. The cow's not going to milk themselves." "Ugh." I groaned and fell back on the bed. "Now, Ed," my grandpa ordered. "This kind of tomorrow isn't any better." I groaned as I reluctantly leave my bed. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.